Well, isn't that a nostalgic piece of music? Although if you're watching this video, then chances are it's not. And the fact that the 8th of April is fast approaching, it's a little over a month from now, just under 5 weeks, you're going to be looking for an alternative to this infamous desktop. And as far as Windows goes, this was definitely one of the more solid um, desktops, one of their most solid operating systems. It just worked. Um, well, once they got a couple of service packs out. But yeah, so Microsoft have said, well, they said a while back, but that date is now coming, that they're going to stop support. And that graphic I showed you at the beginning, that showed that 29.23% of all computers in the world are running Windows XP. Now that's a lot of computers. Now some of those are most likely embedded systems like ATMs and stuff like that. Anything running Windows embedded is good until January of 2016. So it still has another 2 years, just under 2 years. But desktop after the 8th of April is no longer going to be supported. And you may be wondering, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, it means that those updates that you get where it says Windows needs to restart because it's installed updates, your automatic updates, that's now gone. And those updates won't be coming anymore. As you can see here, I've no antivirus installed, but this is running in a VirtualBox, so it's okay. So these updates aren't going to come in anymore, and that will mean that essentially, if you try to imagine it as a ship in the ocean that keeps springing leaks, and what the updates that Microsoft release, they plug those leaks. Now there's other little patches that you can put over that, and you can do that with keeping an up-to-date web browser, or keeping your antivirus, Malwarebytes, stuff like that, keeping all that up to date. But that's all, that's really only going to be temporary. It's a temporary stopgap, and Mozilla and Chrome have said that they will continue to update their browsers, but they're only going to update them for another year. So in April of 2015, support for them will stop, and then you really will be done for. So you're probably, if you searched YouTube looking for help of what to do with your old system, maybe you can't afford a newer computer and you don't know what to do, you're going to be looking for advice. And the advice that I would give is, if you absolutely must keep running Windows XP and you just can't bear to let it go, then your only real option is to disconnect that computer from the internet and no longer go online with it, which for most people probably isn't really a viable option. They need to check their emails, need to check, want to watch YouTube, and while you can't do that stuff like that on your phone, it's nice to actually sit at the computer and do stuff like that. So your other option is to drop, up to 500 euros or dollars for a new system. That's most likely going to come with Windows 8, and Windows 8 is not an easy system to get to grips with, so that may not be the best option, and particularly if you can't afford it, then you just can't afford it. But your computer, maybe your computer still works fine. It's, it has enough RAM, it has enough processing power to just keep going, and you can't upgrade to Windows 7, or, well, you wouldn't want to upgrade to Windows Vista, but basically if your computer was bought between 2001 and 2006, 2007, you're most likely not really going to be able to upgrade. Windows 7. So what we're going to be looking at in this video is some alternatives to Windows. And so, use that in a long time. Media Player 9, wow. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to shut down Windows XP, and we're going to start looking at some alternatives, because if you want to stay secure on the internet, you need an alternative, and the best alternative you can get is Linux. And that's what we're going to look at, some of those distributions now and see which one do you feel would be right for you. So goodbye Windows XP. Hello, and here we are with our first alternative to Windows XP. This is the Q4OS operating system. It's still in beta, so it's not at full release yet. I'll just log in here. Just remember to click. And one of the first things you'll notice once the desktop loads is how similar it actually is to Windows. And it says even has a little start button down here. And if you ever used the 9X series, that would be like Windows 95 up to Windows ME. This would look really familiar. Or if you ever used Windows XP in classic mode, then this would be familiar. So here you have your volume and time, which is completely wrong there, but won't hold that against it. So this operating system, it has a lot of things that are named the same. So up here you can see you have your control panel. So you can see your appearance. That looks like, background. You can go find background. We'll get a picture. So we'll just pick a random one there. The Horsehead Nebula. So there's a desktop background. It's a very nice one actually. The old Horsehead, and there you have your screensaver. These are done in control panel rather than clicking, and although you can run the command. That's basically to type in the name of a program and run it. But the look switcher, to download and install look switcher, yeah. As far as I remember, that just gives it a more modern look, and it gives it just a standard modern day Trinity, adds a new skin on. But I'm not going to bother initializing it, I don't think, for this. For right now, we'll just go to our web browser, which is Conquer. And there, as soon as you start open it and even look at it, you can see oh, it just wants to hang out there in the front. You can see here bloody thing, that if you look up here, it's very similar in look and feel to Internet Explorer. So if we go to, say, google.com, there, it's very IE based by the look of it. Want to switch now? No, won't switch now. So you can get your YouTube. I have to remember this is in beta, plus I'm running it in VirtualBox, so that would explain any bit of lag that you're seeing here. What the home page is. No, just that. Okay. So back to Google. If we go back to the main page, as soon as you boot up the thing, the Conquer, which is the web browser that's installed automatically, you get the option immediately here to download Google Chrome. Deb Apps is to manage and install applications from the Debian repository. So basically what you would do with that is you would, if there's a program that you want, you can Google what you want and find a Linux version of it, and then once you have the name of the Linux equivalent, you type it in there and it'll find it for you. And Wine is a very useful program in that it will help you. It will allow you to run Windows software in Linux. So basically, so yeah, let's download Google Chrome. And where did I save that? It doesn't matter. It basically looks what you're. No, it's not working. As I said, this is in beta, so. But what you could do, actually, if you want to make this a bit more homely, is that you. Yes, I do want to install it. We could just go and look for Bliss, which is the default desktop that was always installed. So we'll look for Bliss wallpaper. Actually, I'm not sure now if that will just search like Google or if it actually looks for a website now. Google dot. Of course, I'm not typing. No, it's not typing. I think this is interfering with it. But yeah, this is basically the Q4OS. It is in beta, and I'm really not certain if they are actually going to have this ready to go by April. You know, it is just a little over a week, and the deadline is April. So actually, let's see if I can get Bliss. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, seems a bit more. Okay, let's drag it to our desktop and set as wallpaper. So there you have the bit more familiar look, and later on the blue that you would normally see, you could download the theme for Windows XP, download the Luna theme and install it, but I wouldn't do that now, not on a version of Linux that isn't really ready for mass release. It is still in beta. But all of your, like if you look at the start menu, all the usual stuff is there. It's accessories, your games folder, Google Chrome, startup, and web browser and console. And then there's your documents for my documents and my pictures, and settings, and there's your control panel, network connections, access to printer, and start menu. Should be, yeah, there's the stuff that is in there. But yeah, so basically that's Q4OS, and in the next one we're going to look at another operating system from the Ubuntu family, and I will show you that now. So just exit this and goodbye. And here we are with our next alternative, and this one is called Lubuntu, and it is based on Ubuntu but uses the LXDE desktop user interface, graphical user interface, or GUI. As you can see, when you initially log in and look at it, it's not too dissimilar to Windows in itself. Now the base version of this comes with not so much installed, but it does have the multiple desktops, so you can open a program here and then switch to another desktop that doesn't have anything on it and then switch back. In this As you can see, you have a lot of the familiar folders. So you have your desktop folder, documents, downloads, music, pictures, a public folder for sharing, your videos, and templates. Nothing in there. So in going around this, we just go on the internet. Let's see, Firefox is installed on this one, but you can download any operating system. Like, say, if you wanted Chrome, then it will just bring you to the Linux version automatically. There for Linux, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, and openSUSE. And we're currently using Ubuntu, or at least an Ubuntu-based one. So, if you've used Firefox, then you'll be familiar with that interface. But for everything else, instead of right-clicking, there's not so many options here with your desktop preferences. That basically just lets you change the wallpaper in the background. If you want to go up for stuff like change the resolution, then you go into that was which preferences, and then for system tools, that's where you would get where is it? Yeah, desktop preferences and stuff like that. Monitor settings for changing resolution. So your network connections, operations, and software and updates. And the great thing about Linux is that I forgot to mention it in the last one actually, is that it is completely free, so you can download it from anywhere. Like, I will be putting links to the websites for all of these. And the thing about these, like in particular for Ubuntu based operating systems, they're the version that is out now, which is the long-term version that's available, is Ubuntu 12.04, and they're going to continue making updates for that and security patches and all that up until 2017. Whereas and in April, about I think it's a week after Windows XP stops being updated, is when you get Ubuntu 14.04, which will be their next long-term service one, and that will continue to be updated for free until 2019, and it will run on older machines. So in looking at this, there's not a whole lot that's pre-installed on it. You just got very basic stuff. Even the games are to be installed, or the accessories. We say, like, there's your terminal. It has VirtualBox installed. Oh no, I actually installed that myself. But so like if we were to run terminal, get here, like you can install programs. We'll say like sudo apt get install, say tux type. I should download and install tux type, which is a game that teaches you how to type faster, and it's completely free. But this is one way to download it, through something like the terminal. But you can also download it through, what is it? I just saw it there. The Synaptic Package Manager, and the, well, here it's called the Lubuntu, but this is the Ubuntu Software Center. So you can download stuff like if you had Microsoft Office, you can just download LibreOffice, which should be in here. Yeah, there's LibreOffice, and you can install that, and I don't know where the install button is. Oh, there, that's the apps basket. In your apps basket is probably where you would install it then. yeah, install packages. So that will install there. And I'll show that on another, actually show how that works on another one, on another Ubuntu based one. Because right now this is basically Ubuntu, and there's tux typing installed. Okay, I'll just quit that. Basically it's a typing game, it will teach you how to type. But for now we're going to basically say that's pretty much it for Lubuntu. It is a pretty good alternative, but I think I can do better with an alternative to Windows XP, so we're going to shut down. And here we are at our next one, and this is another Ubuntu based operating system, and this one is called Zorin. And if you do want to switch over from XP, this is definitely one of the ones you want to look at. The version I'm running right now is Zorin 6, which is based off of Ubuntu 12.04, which is the long-term service. This one comes pretty nicely laid out. Very, very familiar desktop. You can see there. And this is it's Windows 7 desktop. But it does have another one, which makes it look like Windows XP or GNOME 2. Now GNOME 2 is one of the main GUIs that is used for Linux, so it gives you the option to install that, but what we're going to be looking at right now is the Windows XP look. As you can see, it's changed the button down here a bit, and as you can see there, it is very different. Very different to Windows 7, but very familiar to a Windows XP user. Because right here we have the Software Center. So this is where you go to install all of your software, anything you want to install. It has lists. Sorry for the interruption there. But what we've got here is, yes, the Software Center. So I kind of showed you a bit in the previous part, but here this would be much more user friendly than the previous one in the way it's laid out. Oh yeah, it's already installed. So as you can see there's like the remove button rather than the previous one where you had to go look for it. But if I wanted to find say some development program like Eclipse, so there it is, and you just hit install and it will install it, and you can come back in and you can just hit uninstall and it will uninstall it. And so, you know, it's typical. As soon as I start recording a video, I immediately become very popular with people messaging me. So in this one, this is one where I said I would show you Office. Yeah, so there's Office Writer. And so as you see, this is very similar to Microsoft Office in the way it's done. So you can say hello. You can pop down, do your different styles, and it's got many different styles. I'll just go with Arial and how are you doing? A little reference to Joey. And if you want to save it, you can go save as, save it in documents, and then the format you name it up here. So we'll just call this new file, and you save that, and here's where you can pick your different formats. So down here, if you have been using Microsoft 2007 or 2010, you have the docx format, and you can save that. As you can see where it's saved, just go into Home and Documents. There, it's docx, and that will be able to open with Microsoft Word. So, if we look at other things, you got Wine. Now, Wine is a very useful piece of software. And right here, we'll look at the Play on Linux. What we're doing here. Oh, okay, I'll have to just let that install there. But here is where we can choose to download stuff to use in Windows, or sorry, to use in Linux, the Windows applications. So you see here, there's a lot of games that you can install. You got your internet. I'm getting some error here now with my mouse, which I'm sure is to do with the installation that's now going on in the background. So, but as you can see, yeah, it's completely frozen. Oh, oh. Okay, it's probably something to do with the VirtualBox. But this software also includes the automatic updates, and this version is good until 2017. And again, once the Ubuntu 14.04 comes out, this will update and it will probably go to Zorin 9. This version is Zorin 6. And the latest version that's out is Zorin 8. But that's based off of Ubuntu 13.10. And that's not a long-term service, it's a short-term service, which is basically their beta for their next long-term service package. So here, the other things that we can find in here, if I can remember where they are. See, terminal, education, games, graphics. Actually, for graphics, that GIMP image editor this is essentially the Linux version of Photoshop, and you would load in your photo. I don't have any pictures on here, so I can't really show you, but you have all your tools here that you can move around, and as you see, all your manipulations like this, and as you click on them, you'll get your options to change them, and you know, so it's basically Photoshop, but it's free. Trying to think what else go back to Windows 7, because then we can look at other stuff. So accessories, education. There's a lot of stuff in here, and this comes pre-installed with the Tux Typing and Tux Math as well to teach maths, and Tux Paint, which is essentially Microsoft Paint. There's a lot of brain teaser games in here, and for regular games then you've got GBrainy, and that's kind of a Tetris game, a Sudoku, of course Solitaire, you know, because it's just not the same to not have Solitaire on your operating system. It's your Office that contains your LibreOffice, a dictionary, document viewer. So basically everything in here is very useful, and it's straight out of the box. It's a very good system to work with. And when you're looking at this screen as well, like if anybody's ever used Mac OS X, this would look familiar because it's a very similar setup to where you can get in, you can change your desktop background to one of these or there. And it's got a few different options. And it's got some good wallpapers, but it's a very nice operating system. And the thing about Zorin is that if you are coming straight from Windows XP, it is extremely user friendly. It's very easy to use. Like if for your music as well, you have down here it has Rhythmbox pre-installed, and the newer version has the guys at Zorin's their own application, music application called Music, and it works pretty well. And for your graphics, it comes with oh, that'd be an audio and video, sound and video. There's a VLC sound recorder.
Avast virus database has been updated.
I swear, only when I record videos. OpenSUSE video editor. That's really good. That's your video editor. It's way more detailed and easier to use than Windows, than the Windows Movie Maker. And for other stuff, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this, and so I think that's enough for now. So now we'll just turn this off and we'll move on to the next operating system, which will be Ubuntu itself. And so here we are with Ubuntu. This is the actual Ubuntu, and not just based on Ubuntu, which is what Zorin and Lubuntu are. So we're just going to log in here, and if I actually do 2D, CLOUD, so log in, and you'll notice straight off you're not really in Kansas anymore, so to say. It's pretty different from Windows, and someone who would just immediately come into this operating system would probably just be confused as all hell as to what they're looking at. Now this is what's known as the Unity desktop. And here at the side icons, these have all your system settings. So you have your appearance, your display, Ubuntu 1, just how to access everything. You install your printers, additional drivers, the appearance. You can go in and change your stop that. So I didn't actually mean to click that. Unfortunately, my mouse has this unfortunate habit of sometimes clicking when I don't actually click the button, and other times when I click it just once, it seems to think it's a double click. So going here to appearance, see, you can change the desktop. That just puts it on a slideshow, so the desktop will change every once in a while. And as you see down here, this is based off Ubuntu 12.04. Again, as soon as I hit the record button again, I start getting messages. And we'll just go back to the default. So with this operating system, once you get to use it, once you get used to it, okay, that just seems to be kind of stuck there. Once you get used to it, it's incredibly handy to use. And a lot of things are just here on the side, like your software center, and here's your LibreOffice Writer and your web browser, your home folder. That will give you access to similar to other stuff. See about the software center is coming up. Yeah, here's home. Yeah, some reason on the software center the mouse goes a little crazy, so I'll just shut that down. I'll give it a minute. Once again, the lagging that you're seeing here is due to this is running in VirtualBox, which is why it's causing a bit of trouble. So you see there again, it's similar. It's the same LibreOffice that I showed in the Zorin. And I think I minimize that accent. Just quit. And there's your home folder, there's your downloads folder, music, pictures, videos, everything. It has a very similar layout, but this allows you to search the whole computer, so you could just search for I think there's not a whole lot installed in here out of the box, but well, it's just come straight up there. Comp is. Of course, again, the lag is because this is running. I'm currently running Windows 7 on my main computer, but I use Linux on my laptop because it got a bit old, and it couldn't run Windows 7. It was running Windows Vista very badly, and I didn't want to put XP on it because XP is going to be extinct soon. So no, that didn't open there. Oh, that was only the icon I clicked on. So yeah, there's that, and you can and all kinds of things. I don't think wobbly Windows is on, is it? No, it's not. You can oh yeah, a lot of these don't work because of VirtualBox, but this is a handy little tool, but it's not something to go messing around with if you don't know what you're doing. Just go online. Oh, you have your multiple desktops as well with this. So there's the 4 of them. Just straight up there, and you can switch between them. The cube isn't enabled in this, so go up here, and there's your basic Firefox web browser. And if you wanted to shut that down, you may notice that when you do full screen stuff, like you may have saw me do it earlier, but you go up here, this changes. Of course it isn't because yeah, my hard drive is going mental. I can just hear the hard drive in my own PC. It's nothing to do with this desktop. It's just my own hard drive. It's just going ballistic for whatever reason. There we go. It's freed itself up. Oh, no, it hasn't. Oh my god. Turn off. I don't. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so when it's a full screen there, see the top of it disappears. You get all that, but once you mouse over it, it reappears. You can get your history, and you can just close Mozilla, stuff like that from up there. So just hit close, and it shuts down. So basically, this runs pretty much the same as the other ones that I showed you. It's got its software center that I showed you. The Ubuntu one, that's cloud storage if you sign up for that, and you can sign up for that in Windows as well, and you get 5 gigabytes of storage space. So yeah, it's a solid enough operating system. Let you access your various accounts here. You can log in and out of different accounts, your time, rhythm box, and with media controls, and your volume. That's for your internet, and that's the mail service, which the name of I've just completely forgotten. Pigeon or Pidget or something. I think it's Pigeon. But that's basically it for this video, at least, of operating systems that I would recommend. So the ones that we have looked at have been Q4OS, which at this stage I wouldn't recommend installing that, because not straight away anyway. We'll have to wait and see what happens once it goes for full release, because as I said, it's still in beta right now. But and then the next one we looked at was Lubuntu, which is basically this operating system just with a different skin. It has a more Windows type skin. And then there's this operating system that we're using right now, which is Ubuntu, which could be very confusing to someone who's just coming to it because of it looks nothing like Windows, with the Unity interface. And then there is Zorin OS, and Zorin is, I would have to say, the best if you're going to go from Windows XP straight to Linux. Then Zorin OS is the way to go, and you simply get it by going to zorinos.com. Hit get it, hit free, and there you go. Zorin 6 long-term service, and the temporary one, short-term service one, is Zorin OS 8. But next month or the month after, so April, May, we should see Zorin OS 9 LTS come out, which will continue to be updated until 2019. So those are my recommendations, with Zorin being my main recommendation. It's an absolutely brilliant operating system, and it's the one that I use personally on my laptop, and I would use it on my desktop, but because I play so many games, and that's basically all I use my computer for, it's basically college work and video gaming, and because there's just the video games I play aren't available on Linux, which is why I don't use Linux on my main machine. I use Windows 7. But this is definitely the operating system to look at, and I will probably make a follow-up video to this that will just look at Zorin OS 8, which is out at the moment, but I do have trouble running that in VirtualBox due to Ubuntu 13.10 not being quite as solid and stable as Ubuntu 12.04. But that will change with 14.04, which is the long-term service one, and it should become very usable and quick to use. So I will put all the links to these various OSs in the description, and I hope you found this video somewhat helpful, and I'll see you the next time I decide to make a video. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.